Have you ever pondered what transpired behind the scenes regarding The Godfather? From studio challenges to actual mobsters present on set, the production of the iconic film was characterized by numerous unexpected developments. In this presentation, we are revealing 20 intriguing facts about The Godfather that you likely were unaware of. Prepare yourself to examine the drama, the enigma, and the mysteries that contributed to making this film one of the most outstanding of all time. Let us commence. Number 20. The studio was reluctant to have Brando involved. There was no possibility that anyone could have anticipated that Marlon Brando would become the iconic face of The Godfather. Paramount Pictures, the corporation, was indeed quite reluctant to have him involved at all. Could you please clarify the reason? Individuals indicated that Brando was difficult to collaborate with due to his instability and frequent absences arrived late to the shoot. However, Francis Ford Coppola, the director, envisioned that Brando would portray the role, the enigmatic and formidable Don Vito Corleone. Coppola had to vigorously advocate to persuade the company to cast Brando in a film. The company consented, but Brando was required to adhere to several stringent regulations. He had to perform without compensation, audition as any other actor would, and provide a $1 million bond to facilitate certainly he would not pose any issues. Ultimately, however, Brando's performance was so exceptional that everyone was astonished. The studio was mistaken, and he performed one of the most iconic roles in film history. This elevated The Godfather to the status of the masterpiece it is today. Number 19. An unforeseeable surprise. Who the highest-paid actor was remains uncertain, as Brando was competing for the role, but behind during the sequences, there was an additional unforeseen surprise. There was not a single actor comparable to Brando, Pacino, or even Khan, who earned the highest income among the entire group. Richard Castellano portrayed the character of Peter Clemenza, who was devoted to the Corleone family and carried out their clandestine tasks. Castellano received nominations for several awards. Awards received for his performance in Lovers and Other Strangers, which brought him widespread recognition at the time. The amount remitted him the most due to his fame and image, elevating him beyond even renowned actors such as Brando. However, Castellano's tenure with The Godfather was relatively brief. His compensation requests. The compensation for The Godfather 2 was excessively costly, necessitating the need to fill the role of Clemenza by another individual. Because the character was portrayed by a different actor in the sequel, the decision altered the direction of the series. Fans remain curious about how Castellano would have been incorporated into the subsequent section of the narrative. Number 18. Al Pacino was not the initial selection for his position. Now, let us discuss Michael Corleone, who portrays one of the most significant components of the entire film. It is conceivable that Al Pacino, who achieved fame, renowned individual would be the most suitable candidate for the role. However, you may find it hard to believe that the studio executives do not hold any regard for him. He was not a prominent figure at that time. His sole role was a minor part in The Panic in Needle Park. That individual could have achieved greater prominence, akin to Warren Beatty, Robert Redford, or even Jack Nicholson. Coppola was determined to cast Pacino, however, because he believed he was the sole suitable candidate, actor capable of portraying Michael Corleone convincingly. The confrontation was not straightforward. The organization indeed attempted to dismiss Pacino on 3 occasions during the filming of the movie due to dissatisfaction. His presentation. Pacino disproved all of them, but Coppola remained steadfast. His position as Michael Corleone is now regarded as one of the greatest characters in film history, solidifying his reputation as one of Hollywood's leading actors. That is all there is to it. We observed how issues altered the film's ensemble behind the scenes. However, please remain patient, as the production of the film is still underway. It was not entirely enjoyable or entertaining. Number 17. Brando utilized cue cards. Did you realize that much of what Marlon did Brando perform as Don Vito Corleone while reading from cue cards? It was widely recognized that Brando was capable of performing any role on stage, but in The Godfather, he elevated it to an entirely new echelon. Brando, one of the most renowned actors in Hollywood, frequently utilized cue cards to recall the intended remarks. Although it appears unusual for such a renown, the performance was attributable to the quality of the writing. The plot was significantly altered at the last moment. minute by the filmmakers. Often, these modifications were implemented immediately prior to the scenes, were recorded, leaving participants insufficient time to memorize their lines. With his extensive years of experience, knowledge, and distinctive manner, Brando transformed this challenge into an opportunity. He did not attempt to recall the lines. He recited them from cue cards, which proved highly effective for his role. However, this resulted in encountered some difficulty due to his tendency to rely on cue cards, which gave the impression that he was difficult to collaborate with. It is not apparent that he was reading when observing his performance. However, he articulated with clarity and engaged the audience effectively, and ultimately, they accepted all of his statements as true. Brando's cue cards did not significantly alter how the movie was authentic. The fact that he was able to transform words into something far more profound demonstrated his performance among the finest in the annals of cinema. Number 16. The film nearly did not come to completion. There were certain challenges encountered during the production of The Godfather from the very beginning. Paramount Pictures did not genuinely endorse the concept at all. Individuals regarded the film as excessively hazardous, overly ambitious, and prohibitively costly. With a limited budget with an initial investment of $2,500,000, director Coppola and the company were consistently engaged in conflict. Coppola, in contrast, possessed an idea to which he remained steadfastly committed. When he intended to narrate the history of the Corleone family, he recognized the necessity of revisiting the past, and possesses a substantial budget for the film. The studio did not share his perspective. The intention was to set the film in the present day, which would have reduced costs but potentially diminished its impact. Authentic. They also encountered issues with the pacing, the performances, and even the concept of documenting the mob. Scenes set in authentic locations. After Coppola exerted significant effort to secure additional funding, the company ultimately acquiesced, but solely with hesitation. After all considerations, the film's production cost approximately $6 million, which was significantly greater than initially anticipated. However, this is where the transformation occurred. The Godfather achieved international acclaim. It amounted to more than $245 million worldwide, establishing it as the most successful film of 1970. 2. Without Coppola's diligent efforts, this jewel might not have been created, and Hollywood would have overlooked one of its most notable incidents. Number 15. The opening scene was nearly omitted at the outset of The Godfather, when Bonacera implores Don Vito Corleone for justice. It remains one of the most impactful scenes. Were you aware that this iconic scene nearly did not make it into the film? Certain individuals in leadership positions the studio believed that the scene progressed too slowly and did not align with the overall flow of the remainder of the sequence. They intended to remove it entirely, but Coppola refused to permit that to occur. He believed that this scene established the overall tone of the entire film, as it demonstrated its formidable power, respected, and holding authority Don Vito Corleone was. It was his prerogative to exert considerable effort to retain it, and he did so. There is no more appropriate manner to introduce Don Vito than in this scene. It also establishes the tone for the concepts of justice, loyalty, and power that will permeate the entire film. Ultimately, that opening scene became one of the most renowned and widely discussed moments in cinematic history, establishing The Godfather as an enduring classic for all time. Number 14. Frank Sinatra attempted to halt the film. However, significant activities continued behind the scenes of The Godfather. Here appears the renowned singer Frank Sinatra, who was not particularly pleased with how he was depicted in the film. Many individuals believe that the character of Johnny Fontaine, a renowned singer who seeks assistance from Don Vito Corleone, was a subtly veiled allusion to Sinatra's own career. The plot drew parallels between Fontaine's ascent to prominence and Sinatra's alleged connections to the Mafia, which facilitated his obtaining roles in Hollywood films. Sinatra was dissatisfied with what he perceived as an affront. He was uncomfortable with being depicted as an individual who utilized Mafia ties to facilitate his accomplishment. As a result, Sinatra is reported to have made multiple attempts to cease the production of The Godfather. Reports indicate that his team exerted pressure on the directors and even attempted to intimidate them by threatening legal action. However, Sinatra's efforts were met with resistance from the Mafia, who had not anticipated it. With their own connections ensured that Sinatra's attempts to undermine the film were unsuccessful conduct work. It was evident that the film would proceed, despite Sinatra's opposition, because of the significant forces influencing both parties. Despite the significant difficulties encountered beforehand, the sequences, The Godfather continued to unfold and achieved international acclaim. Over the course of time, it is claimed that Sinatra to have revised his stance on the issue, but he never explicitly acknowledged that he was the driving force behind Fontaine. Nevertheless, it is reasonable to assert that he subsequently did not object to the significant influence of the film. However, additional issues remain to be addressed, even with the assistance of the Mafia. What transpired next could have entirely transformed the legacy of The Godfather. The genuine disorder. The process of creating the video had only recently commenced. Number 13. Actual mobsters were present on the set. There were genuine Mafia connections involved during the filming of The Godfather, so it was not merely a film about their story. Some individuals found the film's imagery of organized criminality that is too closely connected to home, particularly regarding the Italian-American Civil Rights Movement League, which was headed by the infamous mobster Joe Colombo. Colombo was not merely employed by civil rights. He also aimed to preserve the reputation of Italian-Americans and prevent the portrayal of The Godfather from disseminating misinformation regarding the Mafia. Coppola and the directors reached an agreement with the League to prevent the film from being discontinued. The League approved the continuation of the program provided that the term Mafia was removed from the script. However, that did not mark the conclusion of the Mafia's influence. Genuine mobsters were frequently present on set during filming to oversee proceedings. This imparted a distinctive quality to the film, a sense of practicality. James Caan, who portrayed Sonny, stated that observing the conduct of the mobsters and minor improvements assisted him in enhancing his performance. It felt remarkably authentic to have their presence there, and even although it was not explicitly discussed, it is evident that their real-life relationships influenced certain sequences. Proved to be, there were covert connections between the Mafia that contributed to the atmosphere of The Godfather, even more akin to an actual event than a film. Number 12. Lenny Montana. Luca Brasi served as a genuine enforcer for the mob and acted as the security for the Corleone family. One of the most notable occurrences on the set of The Godfather is the manner in which Lenny Montana was hired in the role. Montana was more than merely an actor. He previously worked for the Mafia, functioning as an enforcer for executions. As the steadfast, stoic, and devoted protector, he was ideally suited for the role because he was 6 feet 6 inches tall and possessed previously engaged in activities within the illicit underworld. However, Montana did not hold a positive self-assessment in front of the camera as he previously did while out on the streets. He repeatedly forget his lines. In his initial encounters with Marlon Brando, as he was significantly apprehensive, this heightened sense of agitation was merely what Coppola required to bring to life the scene in which Luca Brasi converses with Don Vito Corleone. Coppola elected to embrace Montana's discomfort rather than attempt to conceal it. Montana was observed reading from a sheet of paper, which rendered the scene even more intense and uncomfortable, thereby contributing to Brasi's persona as an anxious yet steadfast individual. Montana's tension and practical life experiences imbued the scene with an unsettling profundity that rendered it one of the most memorable and disturbing elements of The Godfather. "I am honored and appreciative that you have invited me to your daughter's wedding on the day of her marriage" became a well-known phrase. The entire situation originated from the actor's genuine personal tension. Number 11. James Caan's fight scene was a genuine and highly intense moment, one of the most memorable in the film. The most memorable scene in The Godfather remains the toll booth sequence featuring James Caan's character, Sonny. Corleone is subjected to gunfire and assault. The scene was profoundly emotional and authentic, and it was not merely proficient acting, it was rooted in genuine suffering. Caan was recorded amidst numerous squibs, which are explosive devices designed to resemble firearms. The scene appeared even more authentic, however, due to the intensity of the action. The toll booth set was in disarray, with authentic bullet wounds dispersing, creating an impression that everyone was at risk. James Caan, who was renowned for dedicating himself fully to his roles, yet became entangled in the pandemonium. During the filming process, he sustained genuine injuries, such as cuts and bruises, from the explosions and the rapid-paced performance. Actions within the scenario. The agony he experienced influenced his reaction to the gunshots, reflected in the fear evident in his eyes, and the heightened intensity of the moment even more pronounced. In fact, Khan dedicated considerable effort to the scenario, demonstrating remarkable commitment. Became a significant aspect of Sonny's character, displaying the unrestrained fury that resulted in his unfortunate demise. Individuals observed a combination of expertise, emotion, and the risk that Khan was prepared to undertake to depict in real life one of the most renowned combat scenes in cinematic history. Number 10. Marlon Brando's The Oscar speech was boycotted. There was considerable discussion regarding Marlon Brando's actions. Academy Award victory for The Godfather. Although Brando is renowned for his portrayal of Don Vito Corleone, he delivered a compelling political statement in his victory speech. Brando declined to accept the Best Actor award at the 1973 Academy Awards. Instead, he inquired with campaigner Sachin Littlefeather to decline the award on his behalf. A Native American activist named Sachin Littlefeather stated that Brando was protesting the manner in which Hollywood depicted Native Americans. Movies, particularly regarding the portrayal of Native characters in a degrading and stereotypical manner methods. Many individuals in Hollywood regarded Brando's decision not to claim the Oscar as a significant matter, because it highlighted social issues that are typically overlooked. However, certain individuals did not find the film to be satisfactory. Some individuals in the audience, such as John Wayne, exhibited considerable anger and even attempted to converse with Littlefeather during her speech. Although a response was observed, Brando's choice transformed the film industry permanently. It heightened public awareness of the importance of enhanced representation and paved the way for future discussions on social justice. In Hollywood, it remains a contentious event, but it demonstrates the extent of Brando's conviction in utilizing his reputation to address significant cultural issues. Although it generated considerable attention, his protest act introduced an additional dimension to his intricate recollection. Number 9. The Cat and the Horse's Head. In the opening scene of The Godfather, Don Vito Corleone remains seated calmly in his office, gently stroking a stray cat. This is one of the most memorable scenes. This cat was not intended to be present in the scenario. Director Francis Ford Coppola has recently observed a stray cat wandering across the studio lot and decided to incorporate it into the scene. As an individual in a professional capacity, a method to introduce warmth and unpredictability to his frigid and calculated character, Corleone, Brando, renowned for his method acting, positioned the cat on his knee and began to pet it. The cat came to symbolize the unexpected nature of Corleone, illustrating the tenderness of his touch, while concurrently exhibiting considerable strength and severity. Regarding the renowned scenario involving the horse's head, it is both frightening and unforgettable. Surprisingly, the horse's skull that was employed to frighten the film director was genuine. A considerable amount of effort was dedicated to ensuring its appearance as authentic as feasible. According to sources, the cranium originated from a horse that had just passed away, and the personnel ensured it appeared extremely bloodied. That scene was truly startling. Individuals were not only concerned due to the severed skull, but also because of its highly realistic appearance. In the course of the history of cinema, it has become one of the most renowned sequences ever, demonstrating the extent to which The Godfather was willing to become authentic. Number 8. The Godfather was filmed at authentic Mafia sites to enhance the realism of The Godfather. Many of the sequences were filmed at authentic locations where the Mafia conducted their operations. The majority of these locations were situated in and around New York City, particularly in regions with close associations to organized crime and the Italian-American community. For instance, certain scenes of the film were shot on location. Mafia-operated social organizations and the restaurant where Michael Corleone fatally wounds Sollozzo are notable for their significance. A genuine establishment favored by Mafia members. Filming in these locations was not considered secure. Since there were still genuine mobsters in the vicinity, there was always a possibility that they would impede the production, thereby intensifying the sense of peril and the tension. However, due to this decision, The Godfather appeared more authentic than a typical film. set it all possible. Each street, building, and institution possessed its own history of association with the Mafia. They all contributed to the film's raw, visceral atmosphere. Coppola succeeded in making The Godfather appear similar to an actual occasion by utilizing these authentic locations. He established a realm that, despite its nature, fictitious, yet strongly grounded in reality. It was evident that the film was based on actual occurrences, which rendered the world of the Mafia highly authentic. Number 7. The renowned Don makeup required several hours, had Marlon Brando not altered his a visage suitable for the role of Don Vito Corleone. It would not have achieved nearly the same level of fame otherwise. It required an impressive 3 hours of filming each day to ensure Brando convincingly portrayed the seasoned mafia leader. Brando's makeup involved a specialized prosthetic that altered his facial appearance. It caused him to inflate his cheekbones and appear burdened, jowls that distinguished and became a defining feature of his appearance. Brando was not fond of applying cosmetics because it was a lengthy and arduous process. Each day, he was required to remain seated quietly for extended periods, while latex, rubber, and cosmetics were applied. Although he was not fond of the procedure, the outcome was understood. Please provide the text you'd like me to revise. The alteration was so effective that few people could readily recognize Brando's visage, which immediately drew their attention. Assuming the role of his persona, that expression has become one of the most iconic in the history of cinema and contributed to shaping the character of Don Vito Corleone. Applying such extensive makeup was a minor concession for creating a figure whose appearance alone conveyed strength, intelligence, and menace. One of the most memorable films of all time, The Godfather, was produced with meticulous attention to every detail. Number 6. The original script was the original narrative of The Godfather, over 500 pages, was 500 pages in length, which considerably exceeds the typical requirement for a complete feature film. The final version of the film had to be significantly shortened to conform to an adequate computational duration. A significant amount of material needed to be removed in order to maintain a concise tempo. It was not easy to reduce, as Coppola and the other directors had to make some difficult decisions regarding what to retain and what to dispose of. It is evident that the modifications altered the film's sequence and diagram. Numerous subplots and characters were reduced or eliminated, resulting in the primary narrative concerning family, authority, and treachery is emphasized more prominently. Perhaps some enthusiasts would have appreciated to view the complete film, but the edited ending enhanced it. It facilitated the progression of the narrative more smoothly and maintained the audience's engagement without causing disruption. It is noteworthy that the modifications did not diminish the story's level of interest. It enhanced the prominence of The Godfather. Rather, concentrating on the narrative of the Corleone family ensured that the film would be remembered in cinematic history, rendering each scene significant. Number 5. The score was considered unoriginal. Nino Rota's hauntingly gorgeous composition for The Godfather is among the most renowned film compositions in cinematic history. However, are you aware did the Academy not regard it as sufficiently original at the outset? Individuals believed that the primary motif, which became linked to the film, as it was too closely related to Rota's earlier work, particularly a piece he had authored the screenplay for the 1958 film Fortunella. As a result, the Academy revoked the initial music nomination for The Godfather. Although discussions arose regarding the originality of the work, the score was The Godfather was a significant success. The ominous music composed by Rota became an integral element of the character in the film, establishing the atmosphere for its somber themes of authority, allegiance, and treachery. The Academy's decision generated considerable debate, but it did not prevent the film's success from achieving international acclaim. Rota's musical compositions continued to be featured in The Godfather Part 2, which was awarded the Oscar for Best Original Score 2 years subsequently. This occasion, the Academy could not dispute the excellence of the music, and it subsequently became one of the most renowned and significant compositions in cinematic history. So, although the Academy initially harbored doubts, history demonstrates that the music was appropriate for the occasion. World of The Godfather impeccably. It became evident that The Godfather was more than merely a film during its production. It was a significant cultural event. Many individuals appreciated the film, but there are even more stories behind it. The sequences that establish it as a genuine classic. Number 4. Brando's exemplary performance surpassed the screenplay. Marlon Brando's portrayal of Vito Corleone did not merely animate a character. It fundamentally transformed the role in every aspect that was not originally present in the script. Because Brando fully immersed himself in the role, Don Vito Corleone exhibited greater substance and emotional nuance, humanity, and authority, establishing him as one of the most renowned characters in cinematic history. The story provided Brando with an opportunity to portray Corleone, but it was his performance that established him as a complex individual of integrity, authority, and vulnerability. Brando's performance was not merely about delivering lines. It was aimed at illustrating the significance of each decision, the challenges inherent in family, and the extent of loyalty's cost. His subtle gestures, voice, and even the reality that he utilized the cat in the initial scene all contributed to the A character with greater substance. It was a performance that conveyed authenticity, genuine emotion, and a diverse range of elements. It transformed the criteria by which Hollywood actors are evaluated. This remarkable performance transformed the approach to actors perform in films for an extended duration. Numerous creators who followed Brando were motivated by his commitment to bringing characters to life. His proficiency in delivering a character embodying both gentleness and brutality establishes a standard for navigating complex situations. Antihero roles in subsequent years. Lacking Brando's memorable portrayal, The Godfather would not have been the same, and every actor who portrays complex characters' roles today are shaped by his influence. Number 3. The impact of The Godfather on Hollywood. It is impossible to overstate the significance of The Godfather transformed the landscape of Hollywood. This film revolutionized filmmaking techniques thereafter, particularly in the manner in which they narrated stories, the techniques they employed in film, and the portrayal of criminal life. Prior to The Godfather, movies depicting organized crime were more apt to be startling and unremarkable. However, Coppola's skilled direction and the film's meticulous attention to character development and moral intricacy revolutionized the production of criminal films. From a narrative perspective, The Godfather revolutionized the manner in which crime films depict their narratives. It was not merely a matter of crime. It also encompassed family, loyalty, power, and the consequences that arise when these elements intersect. Injured. Concentrating on the character's emotional and psychological struggles, particularly those of Michael Corleone, the film narrates a compelling story of the transformation from an outsider to a ruthless mafia leader. The film's measured and deliberate pacing, intricate familial relationships, and characters with mixed backgrounds. Morals establish a new benchmark for American cinema. The Godfather was also a pioneering work in terms of its influence and significance. Regarding the manner in which it was filmed, Gordon Willis, the cinematographer responsible for filming the movie, was renowned for employing shadows and natural light to create dark, melancholy scenes that align with the themes of authority and moral decay. Number 2. The enduring influence of the Corleone family. The Godfather film series has exerted a significant impact on popular culture. The Corleone family has become integrated into everyday language due to renowned quotations. Similar to the phrase, "I'll make him an offer he cannot refuse," and numerous parodies featured in television programs and films. The Corleone family will remain memorable due to these lines, characters, and iconic moments that have been utilized, parodied, and acclaimed across a variety of media. The film continues to progress and continues to inspire individuals for decades following its release. The series exerts an influence on numerous fields beyond the realm of cinema. Coppola created a meticulously organized universe crime and family drama that has served as inspiration for video games such as Grand Theft Auto and The Godfather, the game. Authority, allegiance, and catastrophe are all things that Don Vito Corleone, Michael Corleone, and other characters have become. They are integrated into the fabric of contemporary narratives. Alongside the films, the narrative members of the Corleone family have been referenced to discuss themes of power, loyalty, and the ways in which violence can influence individuals. Number 1. Remains relevant today. The Godfather continues to be among the most significant movies in both film studies and popular culture, even though they were released more than 50 years ago. Several years prior, power, family, and loyalty are among the themes that continue to resonate in the present audiences due to their universal emotions and experiences. There is consistently additional content to the Corleone family holds more complexity than initially apparent. Loyalty can be destructive, power has the potential to corrupt, and family relationships are invariably more complex than they initially appear. Film studies students examine The Godfather to assess the quality of its direction, its exploration of complex characters, and how it transformed the manner in which narratives are conveyed. This film exemplifies the highest standards of its kind. Films depicting gangsters ought to be produced. It features compelling character development and exhilarating action and significant tension. Furthermore, The Godfather has established itself as a standard for excellence. Films that directors of various genres utilize as a reference. In popular culture, the film has exerted a significant influence regarding all aspects, including television programs and humor. It continues to inform us about the darker aspects of the American dream, the struggle for authority, and the price of fealty in the same manner as it did in the 1970s. The Godfather is likely to maintain its significance for an extended period due to its enduring appeal regarding human nature and the outcomes of our choices. Thank you for your attention. If you found this detailed exploration beneficial in The Godfather, don't neglect to like, share, and subscribe. Please click on the subsequent video that appears on your screen for additional exclusive insights behind the scenes.